Your ears do not deceive you. You have just entered the Cryptid Creator Corner brought to you by your friends at Comic Book Yeti. So without further ado, let's get on to the interview.
Hello and welcome to Comic Book Yeti's Cryptid Creator Corner. I'm one of your hosts, Jimmy Gasparo. I have a very special guest with me today, and we're going to talk about comics. We're going to talk about editing. We're going to talk about Mad Cave. But please, welcome to the podcast, James B. Emmett. James, how you doing tonight?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you so much for having me on. This is so exciting. I
No,
love
I
talking
was
about comics and Mad Cave and all of that stuff. So,
Yeah, I was very excited to have you on. I think first you put something on social media about would anyone be interested in like throwing questions at you, kind of like an AMA, about editing or about the creator owned space or about Mad Cave, and I think folks are always just like, yes, yes, please, information, we want it.
yeah.
That would be delightful. And I said, well, we could also do it on here. So I know you answered some questions on Blue Sky, but I thought it would be fun to actually maybe get into some things a little more in depth. And also, I'm always interested in terms of how things work. And I feel like I think people always had a fascination with like how things work in general when there's like an industry that not that there seems to be some mystery about it, but anything involving entertainment, whether or not it's film or television or book writing or comic books, I think there's always like, well, how does that work? And and especially because like with the podcast, I think we do have a fair number of folks who listen who also want to make comics, and you know uh, the conversation inevitably always turns to, well, how do you break into comics? And the number one thing I think is make comics. But in order to make comics, you have to make comics. But no, there are a lot of things that I think folks have questions for. And now with social media, and things like Discord, where you as a fan or as somebody who wants to take their being a fan a step further and actually make something, there's no other time in history when you really can kind of have a close connection, or at least somewhat of a line of communication with the people that are doing the thing that you know um want to do. So I really appreciate you being open to talking about what it is you do, and talking about comics and talking about it and how it all works. So yeah, thanks for that. Thanks for coming on.
Of course. No, I love talking about it. So it's really exciting to like have the opportunity to like break down some of the barriers and some of the questions that come up because it is such a it, and editing in comics is it's such a strange thing because it's like obviously it's really important for like producing books, but people produce their own books without having an editor attached. Well, the levels may vary in terms of the quality, um,
Yeah.
but
No,
I
I
think
mean, that's
that
true.
but I think that it's a thing that you can do without an editor. But I think that it strengthens content always to have a second pair of eyeballs that might be able to be helpful in terms of like strengthening the story and developing out content and character and narrative, and flow of the story you want to tell. I think it's helpful.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely someone who is a proponent of, you know, working with an editor. I mean, I've certainly written some short comics where I hadn't had an editor because it's just a couple of pages. But even I've had an editor on a 4-page comic, and it was like just immensely helpful paring things down. Sometimes you'll hear, I think, in like the crowdfunding space, well, I can't really afford an editor, but I kind of think for any type of like long term project, it can be crucial, and not just for things you know, like copy editing type of stuff, but those things you were talking about, like the pacing, flow, continuity, um, even some of
And,
those, I think
and
it's all very important.
yeah, and even art direction and like helping in terms of like structuring your story and panel layouts and stuff like that. Like a lot of editors come from a different backgrounds. They come from a variety of different backgrounds, which is really interesting. Some people come from more of like a very strong sort of prose background, and some people come from more of like an artistic background, and sort of it's a nice melding pot of um learning from both ways of thinking, because obviously it's a visual medium, so it's very important to get the storytelling across and to make sure the story itself is structured as strongly as possible.
Oh, absolutely. Well, let's start there. Let's start with your background. So, where'd you grow up?
I grew up in New York. I was born in Brooklyn, and around like 3 years old, I moved out to Long Island. Just me by myself. No, my parents like all moved out to Long Island. And I grew up out there, and then decided I was done with that. And when I got into college, and I moved back to Brooklyn, and went to Pratt Institute, and studied communication design and illustration.
Okay. And so, what was the plan at Pratt? Like, what was the goal?
Yeah, the goal is to become a really famous comic book illustrator. I was going
Okay.
to definitely draw X-Men and Buffy. Those were the goals. But
Yes.
plans
Okay.
change, things evolve. But I mean, I love that school, and I loved everything I learned there, and I still use it today. And it's so helpful in terms of like, again, like art direction and knowing how pages should look, and you know, looking out for tangents and being really aware of composition, and just and being able to give art critiques that are structured in like a very specific way. So I mean, I'm really thankful for my you know the learning that I got from that school.
And so, if the goal was to, be in comic illustration, to draw X-Men and Buffy and the X-Men, the inevitable X-Men Buffy
Of
crossover.
course,
Uh,
yes, yeah, yeah. That was the plan.
uh,
That was the plan. I mean, I was really like I was writing a superhero story that was like super influenced by me watching Buffy, and like that was like I was like, oh, this is going to be my grand opus. So I was kind of taking things that I loved from X-Men, things that I loved from Buffy, and making my own superhero story. Um, Years later, of course, Joss Whedon had written an X-Men story. So I guess maybe I was ahead of the curve. Just kidding. But yeah, and now we shan't speak his name, but at all.
yeah, yeah,
So there's that.
yeah. There is. Well, and how do you make your way then into editing comics?
I was looking around for an internship, and lo and behold, there's opportunities at Marvel Comics. And I'm in New York, so I was able to apply, and I got in um, to the interview, and they liked me. So I kind of they asked me what area I was interested in, which is crazy. They were like, "Do you like marketing? Do you like this? Do you like?" I was like, "All right, editorial." And I really wanted to be in editorial, because I knew that was where the comics were really made, and that was what I was like. I want to do that part. Like I want to be in there, making the comics. And so I did an internship in the trades department. And it was a great experience. And actually, that's where I met Taylor Esposito,
Okay.
who I still work with today, and he letters a bunch of my books, which is so awesome. He might be like my longest comic book friend, my longest
And yeah,
friend in
yeah.
comics.
Taylor's fantastic, fantastic
He's
letterer.
awesome. Such a nice guy, and so good at his job. And he was doing like in-house production stuff, because he's not that much older than I am. So at the time he was like just he was working in the office.
Yeah.
And then out of college, they hired me on full time as an editorial assistant. So I really just like built my way up there for a little while. And I really loved working there. Um, and then there was one day that they laid off 11 of us in one day.
Yeah.
And I was part of that. And they called it lovingly, um, the marble side, which is really cool. I loved being a part of
Oh
that.
no, I don't look
Um,
at that.
can look back and laugh at it now. The day of, it was like tears and everyone's sad, and it was like a whole thing. But
Yeah.
and then I kind of just floated around. I mean, your 20s are weird. Like you're trying to figure out. And I had like the dream job at 23, 24. So I was like, okay, now what? Um, so it was a lot of floating around and figuring out and being. I worked at a startup advertising agency. I worked at I was a front person for a frame shop. I've done all the jobs. I've done so many different jobs. But I was lucky because I landed another gig at a small startup called 451 Media, and it was co-founded by Michael Bay, and it was a comic book company. Um, and I was really fortunate to have that opportunity because I was hired on just like as a hired hand, basically. Like they're like,
Mhm.
you'll just do stuff. And it became like I was a creative coordinator, so I was managing all the assets that came into the office and worked with design team and worked with like Diamond, and then it kind of continued to grow and then grew into more of an editorial position where I was really managing books and putting books together and getting them out the door. It was really exciting and really great. And I got to really learn the scheduling and all of it because we were a small but mighty team of 5 to 10 people. Just so, like,
Wow.
doing it. So I was, I mean, we weren't producing the amount of books like Mad Cave is. So I mean, it was more manageable, but it was definitely like, um, a lot. It was, but I was really, really, um, I really appreciate that time there because it was so instrumental in teaching me so much of what I kind of do every day now. Like I still utilize the Diamond schedule, even though Diamond isn't our distributor, but it's like Lunar has their own schedule too, which I also utilize. I mean, I love being ahead of the schedule, so I look at Diamond, and because schedules are different, I'm like, oh, I'll just keep referencing schedules that make me early. Like I'll just try to get everything done super super early, um, and that's probably you know breaking my brain a little bit, but it's been working so far. And I'm almost at 3 years at Mad Cave. So I think
Okay.
if I keep ahead of schedule, I'm winning.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of those weird things that, like, I'm sure, like, the Wednesday Warriors and the fans that are, really, into comics and up on that, but I think probably the casual fan or somebody that, you know, isn't real keyed into the industry, the schedule of the direct market is kind of wild.
Yeah.
In terms of, like, when you think of, like, other products and how it works, you know, things are solicited, like, 1 or 2 months in advance. Comic book shops have to have their order in. That's why when we say and I say when with guests and I tell my listeners, like, "If you want it, tell your comic book shop to order it," because you run the risk that your shop won't be able to get it if it's not, ordered before, like, the final order cutoff. So kind of staying ahead of that schedule so that books aren't late, because I think most readers appreciate consistency is, like, a huge part of it?
And especially for in a career owned space, like I really strive to be on schedule, early, on time, always, because I think that creator owned has a more uphill battle than what people already recognize
Oh,
in,
yeah.
like if I'm not competing against my own team, but you kind of are for eyeballs a little bit because you're like, oh, well, what are they going to buy? Speed Racer, or are they going to buy Morning Star? Like you're trying to like figure out like, I want them to buy all of it. Like I want them to buy everything,
Sure.
always. But that's sort of, that's the battle. It's like it's a battle
Yeah.
for shelf space. It's a battle for trying to get people interested in your material, and creator owned has a harder time because it's not like instantly already recognizable or something that you grew up reading, which,
Right.
and we're all, I mean, I'm at fault for it too. I'm like, oh, another X-Men book. No, like that's my my jam, like, oh, Storm, great. Slap her on the cover and I'm there, basically. Like I'm an easy sell. Um, but it's harder. And as I've gotten older, I'm like, I've broken out of that a little bit. I mean, I still love Storm. But I've broken out of a little bit, like, and have gotten, but this is before Mad Cave. This is before really 451. I started just buying indie books. Like, I got really into the independent comic book space because I think it's really where you see the most creative stories being told. I think it's, I mean, after you've read X-Men for 30 years, you're like, oh yeah, they repeat a lot of things, huh?
Yeah.
Right. There's
Yeah, I mean, I've
a
haven't
mode.
read. I'm not up on X-Men, but like in terms of like DC Green Lantern, like I've read Green Lantern for years, and it's I'm amazed as to having to the storylines that come out, and there's so many Green Lantern stories that I'm like a huge fan of and I absolutely love. But I've said it before in this podcast, when writers who are do creator owned and go move to like a big two book, or you'll see somebody, someone will put something on like social media and they're like, what's the one character that you want to work on? And I think that is the most daunting challenge. Like I love Green Lantern, but if somebody was like, "What's the Green Lantern story you want to tell?" I'd be like, "Oh, I don't know."
I have
like
no
I
idea. I
just
know. It's really, I mean, yeah, I love, like, Storm is like my favorite character. I think what they're doing with Storm right now is really cool. I love I mean, but I would be gobsmacked to think of anything. I'd be like, I don't
yeah.
know, make her fly a lot, make her
I'm
look
just
great.
I'm just
Yeah.
so amazed with the writers that are just like can pull a pitch out of their back pocket for a
Yep.
character like that has that there've been so many stories and some are similar and it's this backstory for years.
Yeah.
It's very impressive to
It's
me,
very impressive. Yeah.
you know. Um it, so you've been at Mad Cave now for about 3 years, you said?
Yeah, coming on July. And like I keep looking over there because it's my second monitor and I'm looking at the date. Sorry. Like, what day is it? Who? What? So yeah, July will be 3 years, which is crazy. It
Right.
flew by. I didn't have glasses before I started at Mad Cave. So I get to blame them for that. No, but it's like it's funny. It's really is flown by. Pretty crazy.
And do you still do like are you still able to do like freelance editing?
Not as much as I was. When
Okay.
I started off at Mad Cave, I had 10 books or something that, like, was like very reasonable. I'm like, great. And as we've grown, I've gotten quite a few more. So it's become harder to find time to, like, and then on the weekends I'm just like, I just want to crash. I kind of just want to, like, chill out and have fun. And
Right.
that's the perk of having a full-time job, is like not having to be on the hamster wheel as much. Like, I did the freelance thing during COVID, like, after 451 closed, I was, it was COVID basically. And then I had to figure out how to survive and did a lot of freelance. And, obviously we all were able to collect some money that we had paid already into the government and we deserved. Um,
Yeah.
and that I'm like, that's how that works. So,
Yeah.
fortunately, we were all able to survive on our own money that we already paid ourselves. And then, so, but I was fortunate because I had done a book with Erica Schultz and I had done a book with Kirsten Thompson, and both had been picked up. Erica's was called The Deadliest Bouquet, which Image picked up. And then Kirsten Thompson's was called I Am Hex, which was picked up by Rocket Ship. Both of them were funded through Kickstarter. Did we worked our asses off basically to get both of these books funded and made, and I edited both and helped produce the Kickstarters. And Kickstarter is such a great platform. I love crowdfunding. I think it's such a cool way to get directly in touch with people who really care and really want to read the stories and really will let you know what they think about them, which is really, it's like instant gratification.
Yeah.
It's not as instant when you work like as an editor, like at a publisher, because you're not
Yeah.
getting that instant like interaction. So it's a lot more difficult to be like, do you guys like what we're doing? Or, like, it's sometimes I'm like, what happened? Do you like every once in a while I see people being like, I love Spectrum, and I'm like, that's amazing. Like that's like exciting. But with Kickstarter, you kind of like you have interactions directly with people who are really interested in comic books and the story you're telling and all of that. It's really cool. So
Right.
it's just a
Yeah.
different way of creating really cool stories. So I always liked it. It's a cool
So
platform.
yeah, as having just kickstarted my first thing ever recently.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It was successful. It we're finishing up 2 stories, and then we'll get the book to the printer,
Oh my
and
god.
and and um
Are you
and
ever going to do it again? Are you completely exhausted? Are you okay?
no, honestly, for this, it wasn't too bad. It was the right thing for me to do because it was a bunch of short comics, um, a few 3 of which had been 3 or 4 of which had been published before, and then about 6 of them that hadn't, and then we met our stretch goals, so I added 2 more stories onto it, so it's gonna be 12 short comics, so I was able to have a low goal because I had paid for the art for most of them already, and I wasn't really trying to get that back. I just wanted to basically have a book of short comics that I had done, put together, you know, that I could just have and maybe hand out,
That's
at
awesome.
some point.
Congratulations. It
My
is
Yeah, so it was
not easy. It's not easy. So good job.
yeah.
Well done.
I I had a lot of help and, it helps working with good people. I got a great cover by Heather Vaughn, who's local in Philly, so yeah.
Love Heather. She's great. She's great.
Yeah, so thank you. And but I enjoyed it. I would do it again. I mean, it's tough and it's a lot to, shout from the rooftops, but I'm not exactly an introvert. I'm not afraid to be like, what was the old John Lovitz, the critic, buy my book.
Yeah, you just got to get out there on every corner, basically. Like, when I was doing them, I was acting as the PR person. Luckily, my mom was in PR, so I got to like steal
Okay.
from that.
Yeah.
And I was just like, let me just blast all this out to everybody and see if there's interest. And then you kind of line up interviews with the creator and get them out there as much as possible, talking it up and
Yeah.
selling their wares, on the
Yep.
street, on the
That's,
corner.
that's it. That's
Um,
it. Um, so
yeah.
what is it as an editor, real quick, before we get into some of the questions that you were asked before and we can talk about some of that folks were interested to know. Just kind of give listeners the overview. What is your what are your duties as an editor? Like how do you view your job? How do you explain it to somebody if they're like, James, I haven't seen you. What is it you do? And you're like, oh, I'm an editor at Man Cave. And they're like, what is that?
What does that mean? Yeah, well, I'll explain it to you like I explain it to my mom. Um, when she's like, "What does an editor do for a comic?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Well, so it's interesting. Well, for creator-owned editor, like, we look at pitches and obviously we read over content and we look at what people send us and we think of like if it's acceptable or if we want to send it up the pike or if we want to talk about it in the funnel, which is like when we have this is not a broad term for everybody in the industry, but like when all of us editors, we read 10 pitches a week. We meet, we discuss them, and we decide what we're going to send up to the executive review, which is like the higher ups who finally decide what they're going to spend their money on. So they get the final say, of course. So that's part of the job, but my day to day is really filled a lot with reading over scripts and making sure stories are following the flow of the outline. And I think the outline, like landing the outline with the creator, is really the first step of producing a good story. Because I think like I know some creators don't love having an outline, but for an editor, it's like everything. It's my blueprint. It's making sure I know how every issue is going to end, where it's going to go, what the characters are doing. It's almost just like I need that in place, because it really helps me know what the scripts will look like. And then, I think then it's like the fun part of the script writing, and then like they can kind of go and do their thing. The difficult part is, like if we don't have that in place, then we don't know where things are leading. So that's a big thing. Obviously so like we review the scripts and make sure they're following the blueprint that we have in place and everything's flowing properly. We help the artist get we help the writer or creator get the artist on board, colorist, letter, cover artists. We set up schedules, production schedules. We bring everything in. We provide notes. We help the creator with figuring out what notes they would like to provide to the artist. Sometimes they don't, like if it's a licensed material, sometimes the writer doesn't have any quote unquote say officially on like what happens in the art. That's more like,
Okay.
okay, well, the licensor needs to look at it and approve everything, but then the editor also weighs in on that. So, and then we organize everything. This is like the less fancy schmancy side of being an editor. It's a lot of project management, which is like,
Okay.
okay, there, like when is this like what needs to get bumped in the schedule? Where do the files need to go on the server so everyone knows where things are, so the design teams can grab them in time to put the book together so the book goes out. It's a lot of that stuff, which is it's the less fun, less creative side. I get I like it because I'm a little type A and I like to control things. So that gives me a thrill. But I know everything where everything is, and I have it all, and it's organized and like labeled properly, and we're
Right.
using the naming convention and all of that stuff. So like that's and that is not usually an artist vibe at all. Like I will get like the naming convention thing, artists, they don't care. They're like K12, and you're like, cool. Is that the page or the book number? What's K? So you have to like decipher, and hopefully it's on the hopefully it's on the email thread so you can figure it out. But it's a little funny that nobody
Okay.
really. So yeah, I think that's I mean, it's, and a lot of answering emails. A lot of answering emails. Because if you're working on about 30 books, you have usually 4 creators per book. So like
So
you're just like coordinating schedules and coordinating assets, making sure people have everything and connecting them to the creator who wants to see them, and provide notes, and like everything kind of goes through the editor usually. Like that's we're the funnel. We're like, okay, we'll take your notes and we'll bring them over here. And add my own and make sure you're okay with them and make sure we are in agreement. And then we'll get the notes back to the artist and then the colorist and then the letterer and the cover artist. And then like we also have approval processes in like inside internally for Matt Cave for covers. So it's like making sure everyone's happy internally with what the covers look like. Mike Martz,
okay.
our editor in chief primarily.
Yeah.
So
All right.
yeah.
Yeah. That's a lot.
It is a
Nice.
lot.
It's a
Yeah.
great overview of it. All right. So I wanted to go through some of the questions that folks had asked on social media, and then Byron had put uh, something up for folks to submit a couple of questions to. So I wanted to go through some of them. I I was surprised that there was more than 1 or 2 questions about your hair. Uh, so
Which is
just so I
gone
let you know
now.
that.
I chopped it all
Yeah.
off. Sorry, everybody. But
Yeah.
no.
Um, but yeah, Gary Maloney in particular had asked, how do you get those luscious locks? So
Oh, Gary. Gary is a great writer. Gary wrote When the Blood is Dried. And he
yeah.
is a sweetheart. And did a great job. And Luscious Locks, I don't know. My parents did a great job.
To that.
But I chopped it all off. They're gone. The Luscious
Oh
Locks are
no.
gone. I
Well,
know. I got bored.
that's fine.
You
It's your
know,
hair. You can do what
I
you want.
gotta change it up.
All
Yeah.
right. Okay. So I like this one. This was by Ricardo Andres Acevedo, who asked, what would you say are the most important things creators should keep in mind when working with editors, things that'll make I think meaning the editors' lives easier, or maybe the creators' lives, maybe both. So
Well, both, yeah. I think, I mean, the goal for editors is to make the creators' lives easier. And the goal, hopefully, for creators is to make the editors happy, so that the editors feel that they can hire them again and trust that they'll deliver, every time.
Mhm.
So I think the biggest thing for me would probably be, obviously hitting your deadlines is really important, all of that, making sure your work looks good, that you don't look like you're rushing. Um, but I think also, like, we always talk about this internally, is the communication. It's just like, let us know if you're gonna be delayed, let us know why, you don't have to go into, like, crazy detail if you're having the worst week of your life. You don't need to, like, belabor the point, but, like, let us know what's happening so we can kind of plan accordingly, or at least know why we're not seeing files from you. So I'm not emailing you 4 or 5 times in 1 week and being like, hey, so where are you? So I think communication is the most important thing.
Okay.
Just let us know what's going on. Yeah.
All right. Um, uh, Here's one. Are there any major red or green flags in a new writer's work that you look out for? Things that indicate they would need to majorly improve before you'd put them in a place to write for you, or things that show that despite their inexperience, they have good habits or instincts?
Hmm. I mean, one big red flag always is multiple actions in one panel. That is clearly someone who needs to understand, and, like, that can come from multiple different, um, origins, basically. Like, a
Hmm.
lot of prose writers can do that because they don't realize, like, they're so used to just writing their story down, and they don't have to think about that, you know? But, like, an artist can only draw one action per panel. It's not 50 thing like, you can't nod and grab a glass of water and drink it and then go to your door and open it. Like, that's 3 actions that are crazy. Um, so you really have to be aware of pacing and how many actions can take place in a panel, and I think that visual storytelling can be a bit of a hurdle sometimes for writers. I think, another red flag would probably be an overabundance of dialogue. Um, newer writers really tend to fall back on reliance of, "Let's just have these people talk. Because I'm not gonna trust in the visual storytelling ability, or, like, trust that the visuals will carry the story. Um, but if I say enough, if I make it funny, if I, like, get really snappy with my dialogue, if I really get in there, I'll distract. And I'm just like, it's okay. Trust your artist, trust them to be a good collaborator, trust them to tell your story well. So I think that those 2 are probably the biggest red flags that I always see with newer writers, and can
Okay.
be a little hard to, like, get that out of their
Right.
system. Green flags are true for for any comic book writer. I think it's instinctively trusting your collaborators, knowing the strength of your team, knowing how much to write in the panel descriptions, and then knowing also when to kind of, like, give up the ghost and sort of let your artist have their moment to maybe experiment or try something new, or, um, even be like, "This is more of a guideline, you guys." Like, if you think that another, um, layout or another, panel, just, composition would work better, please feel free and see if it works, you know? So I think that's really cool to me, is, like, when writers are more open to that
And
collab.
you're talking about, like, in a script, like putting that in, like, page 1, panel 1, here's how I see it. But if, like, actually putting all of that out there,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, I've had writers who have done that, and I also know writers who are, it's interesting because, like, things do funnel through the editor, but I will say that writers are sometimes in touch with a lot of times they're in touch with their artists, especially if you're creator owned. Like, there's a very open conversation at times, where they're just being like, just, where you've collaborated before, the drill. Like, you can take this not as gospel, but sort of as um a guiding post. Like you can sort of, as long as you're following the story, you're not going, you're not doing the Marvel method. You're not just going off and doing your own thing. This is, it's not like
Yeah.
a 3 beats for on a napkin that you're like
Right.
going off on. You actually have to follow the script. But yeah, so I think that's sort of, I really do love the collaborative nature of comic books. And it's one of those mediums where it's the most free in terms of collaboration. And most immediate. Like you don't have film directors and actors and set and like all of that stuff. And it's really about usually it's 4 or 5 people working really closely together to create one piece of cool story.
Yeah.
Um, and it's kind of magical and everybody is so funny because I think that like anytime you get to tell a story and no matter what the medium, it's sort of a little mini miracle because it's honestly so much work to put a comic book together. It's like one comic book together, putting multiple graphic novels together, putting a movie together, putting a TV show together. I mean, putting a freaking stage show together, a
Yeah.
Broadway show. I mean, it's just, and that's like every night, and I can't imagine I would just lose my mind. But it's like it's all of these things that are. It's really just kind of an amazing thing with that humans are capable of doing. It's really important, I think, to like take stock of like how impressive human beings and how impressive creative people are, and to be a part of putting that together. It's pretty cool.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, love my job. I'm lucky.
Good. Yeah, I'm sure you get this one a lot, but someone asked, what is the best, least intrusive, and annoying way to get a comic in front of you or another editor? I hear creators talk about how they used to just send comics to editors and would have to keep on sending them until they get a yes. Is this still a thing? Now, I know with Man Cave, I think still has like there at least I don't know if it's open, but at one point it had the creator owned like portal you could submit. But you know, is there a way to like to send it to an editor, or is the portal the way for Mad Cave? What about
Yeah.
approaching you like at a con and being like, oh hey, I see you at Baltimore. Do you have a moment?
I mean, yeah, I think the ideal way is to do the portal because I mean, if we don't already have an existing relationship, if you don't have my email, that's hard. Though I will not be giving out my email. um, you had it. Don't tell anyone. No,
I won't. I won't. I promise.
no, but I think it can get overwhelming with how many email. I mean, I took a half a day off and I had 40 emails that I came back to, and I was like, okay. So I think that the reality is that we have people that we're already in touch with that are emailing us frequently with pitches and ideas. So I think that for anybody who's trying to break in, I think use the portal, use the mode that the publisher and the creator owned editor and all those people have messaged to you to use, because otherwise you'll just make them unhappy and they won't want to work with you. Um, I mean, it's true. It's like we're inundated. We have a lot of people, unfortunately, who want to work in the comic book industry, or fortunately, who
Yeah.
want to work in the comic book industry. I think it's amazing. But it's overwhelming. So I think that that's really important in the nicest way possible. Like it's really important to follow the guidelines for everyone. I think at conventions, it's a little harder for anybody to look at a pitch at a convention because it's loud. It's hard to always hear and communicate and talk about pitches. We don't have time to read. We can look at art sometimes. I always take time to try to look at portfolios while I'm at conventions.
Okay.
Not every editor does that. I know Mad Cave likes to. The editors like to. Unfortunately, we don't go to every convention, so sometimes we're not even there. But
Yeah.
but I will say, like, if you get the opportunity and you get us on a good day, you could probably get a business card out of us or drop something off, and we'll read it later, or we'll try to, and we'll try to be in touch. But yeah, the portal is the best mode of like getting pitches to us. Sometimes it takes a little while for us to answer, but we'll do our best to get back to you.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was gonna. That was gonna be the follow up because someone had asked. I mean, you did answer this on on Blue Sky, but Edward Kane had asked, "Is there an estimated time that creators should expect to wait for a response from the submission portal?" Um,
Yeah,
but
it can take a little while, unfortunately, just because of backlog, and our review process, and we try to answer everything within a couple of months, but it can really take a while because we do try to look at everything, and we try to review, um, content, based on, like, what we think would do well in our in the market,
I will.
and so it's difficult to review everything, but also get back to everybody in a timely manner. And we try our best. We do. So if
Yeah.
you don't hear from us, I apologize. And feel free to resubmit. And we'll do our best. Or I don't want people to like get accustomed to pinging me online. But you can always try.
Okay.
I'm on Blue Sky. I'm on Instagram. Don't abuse that though, please.
Yes. Do not. Do not. Please do not abuse that. And I mean, I'm a huge fan of Mad Cave. But you and I, for I mean, if we for people watching this on YouTube, they can see, but for podcast listeners who cannot, James and I both have our Mad Cave shirts on.
Oh, yours is
Um,
a 10-year one too. I didn't
yeah, it
notice
is.
that.
It
Oh, that's
is.
so awesome. That's good. I have a different mine says a 10-year on the back. I
Yeah,
Anyway, it's there.
but
Believe me.
and so, I I have a lot of Mad Cave creators have come on the podcast. I talk a lot about their books, and I mean, because I genuinely, like them. I, I mean, that's it. So just listeners, if you're wondering, I really just do this because I like it, and I like Mad Cave, and I like the
Thank
company, and
you.
that's all it is.
Yeah.
So,
I listen to your show. So I love Comic Book Yeti. I've
oh,
been a
thank
fan
you.
of Comic Book Yeti for a long time. So I'm really this is
Well, we
awesome.
appreciate that, but there's a lot of different comics on a Mad Cave. I mean, I think early on, there was definitely it seemed like a bent towards, um, action adventure, some supernatural. There's been sci-fi. There's Nottingham. There's been and even more and more. There's so many different types of comics now. Um, y- is there any is there anything that you would think is like a Mad Cave comic or idea? Like if somebody was wondering, "Oh, should I wanna which publisher should I pitch this to?" Is there anything that if somebody was working on or had an idea that you thought is a Mad Cave comic, or is that kind of not a thing anymore? Like Mad Cave is just we just want really good stories.
I mean, I think we want really good stories. I think that's, I know it's sort of not an easy answer, but I think that's sort of true. I think that's like the barometer, the bar for us is like to make sure we're telling the best stories. I think for me as an editor, I always think of character driven stories as being the thing. Like I think like especially in more of the independent market, I think it's really important to have a character that I'm sorry, my voice. Wow. Um
You're
that
doing great.
I know, we're like really killing it. That readers can get invested in, and I think that's what really helps people to, especially for monthlies. Like you have to bring people back to read the next issue and the next issue and the next. Monthlies are it's such a strange, um, way of publication in terms of just like comics are so specific in that way,
Yeah.
that no other some other industry functions like that. I mean, magazines to a certain extent, but comics are sort of the thing that you go into a store, you go into a specialty store, and you say, "I want to order this limited series that will come out every month, and I'm going to pick it up, and I'll be back um, every month to come and finish my story." And then I'll get the trade. So it's just interesting. It's like a very um, different format. So, no, I did not answer your question. I just went off on a diatribe of how comics work.
Yeah, it's fine.
But, that's how I roll after I had, like, 4 meetings today, and it's been long, so that's where I'm at.
No,
But,
it's fine. I'm barely James, I had an hour and a half long deposition, and then I finished the day with another almost 2-hour doctor deposition. So
Uh,
I'm barely holding it together
we're both
after
barely
2
holding on for dear
depositions.
life. Here we are. We are a pair. But no, I think the most important I mean, yeah, I think that's the most important thing. Story.
Okay.
I mean, we obviously cater more towards horror, sci-fi, space opera, fantasy type of stuff. I like weird horror. I like horror stuff. That was like a big thing for me when I came on was I really wanted to get creator-owned horror stories in, and we're really starting to tell some, which is really exciting. We got like Kill Train. We have a bunch of new ones that are going to be announced soon, which will be really cool. I'm
Nice.
very
Yeah,
excited.
I was gonna ask you, like, what is it you as an editor like to see?
Horror. That's my jam. No, but I mean, I love I mean, anything that's a good story is a good story. I love horror stories. I mean, sci-fi, space adventure, weird stories like we did Galaxy of Madness, which I absolutely loved. Mags Visaggio
I
killed
love
that.
Galaxy of Madness.
Thank you.
Galaxy of
I mean,
Madness is so
oh, good.
particularly weird in, like, a way that I love. Like, it just kind of it seems, uh, like it almost doesn't fit, like, right now, like, it was written by, a time traveler because it has, like, this such a bizarre 50s, 60s kinda sci-fi um like sensibility to it, but it feels like very modern thematically. And then, like, Michael and Taki's artwork is incredible, and it's yeah, but Mags Visaggio, it
She's a
just
rock star. She's
uh,
so
yeah,
good, and
she's incredible.
I think she's going places. I'm totally kidding. I mean, she's already places. She's everywhere. But no, she's great. I love Mags and
Yeah.
that team together. Just even Victor, who came into doing the second volume, absolutely killed it in terms of like landing the look and feel of Michael Avanoming's work. It's his aesthetic at least, and like keeping that consistency. It really feels like a cohesive. I mean, I could talk about Galaxy of Madness for a long time. It's a wild
Yeah.
story. And it's great. So I'm really excited about that. But yeah, so I think it really runs the gamut in terms of like the stories that we tell, which is the most exciting part about working at indie press. Like if you're working at
Mhm.
Marvel, you kind of have your rules and your house styles and your set expectations. I think like the nicest thing that Mike and I had a conversation once, Mike Martz, about art and style and stuff like that. And the nice part about working for like a more indie book is there is no house style. You can kind of, bring
Yeah.
in an artist who
Yeah.
will really do something really different. And then you could bring in an artist that's more standard in terms of superhero, not exactly superhero style, but like fair. Like they could easily go back into doing that sort of work. So it's really fun. It's great.
Yeah. Awesome. One of the other questions I really liked that you had answered on social media on Blue Sky, D. Emerson Eddy had asked, do you find any increased strictures in place working on licensed properties versus in-house or creator owned?
Yeah. I mean, licenses, they're very protective of their brand, which they should be. Like that's their baby. So I mean, so's creator owned, but creator owned is you're directly communicating with the person who created the IP, and they'll tell you what a character will say and what they'll do, and they'll write the script, and there it is. There's no surprises. For a license, you're learning while doing, basically. I mean, you're reading up on the material, you're familiarizing yourself with the characters, you're watching the movies, you're, absorbing the content, but you'll never know it as well as the license holder. Like I mean, you might, who knows? But the likelihood is they'll probably know their license better than you. So and
Hmm.
they get to have the final vote. They get to tell you what's up. They get to tell you if the character is off model, and all of that stuff. So like that's like it it's just more a little more restrictive. Like,
Yeah.
and that's just the reality of the beast. That's just
Right.
how, and that's how they're successful. So it's not like you can be like, well, they don't know what they're doing. Like, well, they do actually. So you just have to kind of roll with it and go, yes, you are correct. Um,
Have you ever had a situation? I mean, you don't have to obviously get in. I'm not asking you to get into specifics, but just generally, if somebody pitches something and you think it's a really good, concept, maybe it's a writer and artist team and it looks really good, but it's something, you know, similar or in the same vein that of a book that Mad Cave already has. It I mean, are you ever just like, this is do you just is it just a no? Is it this is good, but this is a not for us? Like, do you ever give feedback? Like, how does that work when you come across something like that where you think somebody's got a strong idea, but it's just kind of too close to something Mad Cave's already doing?
well, if it's something that's already out, because we are like still a smaller press, so like we still have backlog books that sell and go out to distribution and all of that stuff. So we don't want to eat into those specific sales. So if there is something that's like very similar to something that's already out there, well, that's difficult for us to bring on.
Yeah.
If it's something that's already in production internally, sometimes it depends on the level of the relationship. Sometimes I can just be like, we have this has too much overlap with something else that in production, or like,
Okay.
it might be coming down the pike. Um, you don't want to like say too much. So I don't go into specificity when I say that. It's just to be
Okay.
like, there's overlap and we can't see us doing this right now. Usually it's very the rejection emails are hard because you can't go into like, depending on what level the creator wants to talk about any notes or thoughts that people had.
Hmm.
I'm happy to talk to them, but usually it's more of like, this is not a fit for us at this time, or we're not sure if this will work here. Um, and that's usually the truth, is like, or we have too many books, which is also true, at times. It's like when we're overwhelmed with work, um, the higher ups are cognizant of that and are aware of like how much people's workload is, and
Yeah.
they're not looking to overwhelm us. So just being aware of that.
Okay. Have do you ever get to like a point, or any of the editors at Mad Cave where, you like somebody's work from something else and like ask an artist or writer, to pitch something to you, or is it always flowing in
Yeah,
the other
no,
direction?
we definitely have reached out to people that we like. So it's,
Yeah.
I've reached out to people that I've worked with before that I liked and who have pitched. Some stuff gets picked up, some stuff doesn't. That's the reality of the world. Some people pitch once or twice and then suddenly have the big two that they're working with and don't have any time to pitch anything. So like that happens and you're just like, okay. And that's the best case scenario, is that they become busy with like way too much work. So, yes, that's a long way of saying yes. We reach out to people to pitch us frequently. Sometimes they have time, sometimes they don't, sometimes they're interested, sometimes they're not, which is totally fine.
Right.
That's just the nature of the beast. Again, catching someone on a good day and hoping that they might be interested in pitching to us. So
Well, so let's talk about the specifics in terms of like when you get a pitch packet, right? For listeners who might not be familiar, like what are you hoping to find other than a great horror story, or just a great story? Now, what are you hoping to see? Because I know Mad Cave has their requirements, and says we want to see A, B, C, and D. But
Mhm.
like, as the editor though, like what are you really hoping to see in that the writer or artist or team has submitted?
Yeah, I mean, we become a little bit more lenient in terms of needing to see an artist attached or having a whole creative team attached. We've been more open at being like, if a writer has a good idea, we'll help you assemble a team. Um, however, um, if you're pitching with a team, obviously we want to make sure like the artist that you've selected is up to par, that you know, like I think it's helpful sometimes to look at like other books that Mad Cave has put out and be like, realistically, does my artist measure up to kind of like what their output is? And that's like not to be rude to anybody, but everyone's at different levels at different times. So like that's
Mhm.
just the reality of the nature of growth and growing as an artist and growing as a creator.
Yeah.
Um, but for like a pitch itself, you know, I think having a log line, knowing who your target demo is, knowing who you're trying to put the book out for is helpful. You know, like obviously, because there's a difference between like YA and pitching for a 150-page graphic novel versus a 4-issue miniseries that will come out as a monthly and is targeted more for adults. Those are two different sensibilities of like how you're going to approach a story. You know, we can't really show guts, or we can, you know, we can show some guts, but we can't show breasts and nudity and sex
Yeah.
and violence and drugs and rock and roll. Well, you can show some rock and roll, but you know, all of that stuff in YA, you can show that stuff in like an adult book, miniseries. So I think like that's like those are just like clear differentiators. So it's important to kind of know who your audience is and who you want to talk to. And then, you know, I mean, some people just write a synopsis down. Some people break it down by issue, which I think is kind of helpful in figuring out for yourself how your story breaks down, what your outline, what your rough outline is going to look like,
Right.
and where your cliffhangers are going to go and how your story and like will end. Please spoil everything for us. Like, don't be like,
Sure.
and you'll never know what happens next. You're like, no, I do need to know. I need to know. So like, don't end
Right.
your pitch in a question mark. Like, I get pitches from creators and I'm shocked. I'm like, I need to know more. Like, this is a paragraph. So like, you know, I think it's important to also like more open to this than a lot of other like a lot of other editors. They like a one pager. They want it tight. They want to like get everything like concise. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I would rather see what your story looks like. I want to know what the character's journey is a little bit. Like I want to know what the narrative is. I want to know where we go, and
Yeah.
how we
You
get
want to
there.
see the arc,
Yeah,
right?
I wanna see the through line. Where are we going? What's happening? What's the journey? Yeah, like, that's the fun stuff. Like, that's what I mean, I don't need the 4 bullet points. Like, that's fine. So that to me is more important. I don't want you to write me 20 pages of a pitch that will drive me crazy. But, you know, if it's 4 pages, 3 or 4 pages, that's okay. That's cool. Like, telling your story, like, tell me everything. And that's without art and everything like that. But if you have an artist attached, obviously, if you want to include sample pages, fabulous. But again, like we don't require that all the time. And sometimes it's um, better to pitch without having an artist attached because, like, we've had circumstances where it's like the artist is attached, and they're a co-creator, and we don't necessarily think the art is up to par. So then there's that uncomfortable like conversation if we're interested in the idea of being like, so do you want to pitch this without your artist attached? And like there's that, and that's just a reality. Like that's, you know, so that's an uncomfortable conversation to have.
Yeah. I can imagine. That's
But like, I mean,
um.
and we've brought on books with artists that are attached and they're brilliant. So it
Yeah.
does happen.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, now let's turn to Mad Cave directly because I said I would keep you about 45 minutes and we're closing in on an hour, which I can't believe because it has flown by. So let's talk some more about Mad Cave. There's a bunch of stuff that I'm reading right now and absolutely loving. There's some stuff that I've heard that is coming out and I'm really excited about. But what is you tell me, what is it that you're excited about that Mad Cave has coming up or that is out right now?
Oh, you got me all excited about what you're reading. No, I
Oh,
mean,
I can tell you. I mean, I'm reading I just finally caught up on Dick Tracy and Galaxy of Madness because my to be read pile is it taunts me like everybody else's does. So I have both of those that I just got caught up on. Luckily with the podcast, I get to read a bunch of stuff when I interview folks. So I got to talk to Anthony Cleveland and Alex Cormack. So I read Buried long ago, right?
That book
And
is awesome. It's so good.
yeah, and
So good.
who else did I talk to recently? And I was super impressed with the book. I don't think it's out yet, but Peter Milligan and the Pale Knight,
The Pale
right?
Knight? Yeah, that's
Oh,
awesome. Yeah.
yeah.
I'm gonna shout out some editors who worked on those. Marla is doing a great job on The Pale Knight. They are a great editor and they're doing a fantastic job. So shout out to them. They're great. Yeah, but Peter Milligan, I mean, that book is rad and wild, and beautiful. It looks beautiful. I mean, the artist on it killed it. So
Yeah, it's oh, the name just went right out of my head. It's too late at night. But I was just trying to look it up real quick. I could remember because I want to say I thought it was Val. Yeah, it is. It's
yeah,
Val Rodriguez.
oh,
Yeah,
I guess. Yep.
yeah.
Sorry, it was not helpful at all. I was like, "What is he asking?" I had a moment. We're both exhausted. Okay, great.
Yeah, no, you're fine. But yeah, I've had Val's been on. I think Val's been on the podcast before for work that he for some of his other comic work. But yeah, fantastic artist. He's done stuff for Vault. I think he's done stuff for Wave Blue World. And yeah, the book, it looks great. Looks great. Love the story. So very excited for folks to be able to read The Pale Knight.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, it's really good. And that's been in the works for a little while now, so it's very exciting to see. It's always exciting to see when the books come to life. Like you're like, oh, there it is. Because I had started on that like very early on, and I mean Marla
Okay.
stepped in very quickly because it was one of those projects that was just like, okay, well, let's divvy up the workload a little bit. And I was like, happy to. So yeah, The Pale Knight is great. It's so good. Um, so books that are coming up that I'm really excited about. God, I'm trying to think. Oh, Blue Palo Verde by Ray Fox, which is like a folk tale horror story, drawn by this artist named Ramonti, and she is crazy. Like her artwork is so beautiful.
Ooh,
So
okay.
I'm really excited for people to see that one. And it's like about a woman named Christine Woods who gets out of prison, and she like tries to find her father and finds him, and he's in this town called Promise, and it becomes much more than she thought it was, in terms of trying to get him to come with her and like get him out of this town and what it all means. And so it's very mysterious and very cool and weird, and I love it. It's similar to stuff that Akiva's done, but it's also so its own beast, which is really
Okay.
fun. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah,
Sorry, go ahead.
Ray's been on the podcast before for we talked about Sanction. I'm just, I gotta watch out. I gotta watch out my toes for all these names I'm dropping.
I know.
Uh,
He's so great. I love Ray. He's so
but
good. I mean, the
yeah,
script that he wrote for, I mean, in Sanction, I mean, he's really great. He's
yeah.
a great writer.
I'll shout out one that I just heard about. That I'm excited for is Red Vector.
Red Vector. Yes, my boys. Yep.
Yep, that's another David Andre and Tim Daniel,
Yep.
right?
Another Tim
Yeah,
Daniel DB joint. They are killing it with art by Chris Evanhughes, who's just an insane person. I mean, every page is beautiful. And they just did Crush Depth with Alex Sanchez, who's also another incredible artist. And, I mean, we've been very lucky. All of their books are drawn by these. Marco Finnegan did Morningstar. I mean, just like
oh, I loved
one
Morningstar.
brilliant
I loved
artist after
Morningstar.
another, and like
Yeah,
just like so patient and kind. We really have left out in terms of landing some incredible artists every single time. So thank God.
yeah,
But also, I mean, the writing and the story and Red Vector, I mean, it's like it's 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 a wild story, but it's such a space opera sci-fi story. It's so in the vein of Star Wars, and I absolutely love it. And it's so beautiful. I know, I couldn't. Every cover was a delight. I mean, I can't wait for everyone to see them. They're just
Oh
unbelievable. I
wow.
mean, the interiors,
Y-
like
Just
it's
yeah.
so.
We'll do like this is going to be like a man cave preview, but just so listeners, just I mean I'll put links to stuff in the show notes, but Red Vector is the one I'm really excited about. Cora Martinez has seen her fair share of conflict. As a Sonoran Desert Park Ranger, she straddles the line between sheltering desperate immigrants and steering others away from an uncertain fate. She longs for a place where disputes such as these no longer exist, but a clash far bigger than any on Earth is about to rip the heavens apart and crash land upon her doorstep with the arrival of two opposing combatants in an alien civil war through a rift in space. The Earthbound space opera from the creators of Morningstar and Crush Depth begins. When the stars fall, war came to Earth.
Ah,
Oh, oh,
I know. That's solicit. Really
yeah.
well written. Really good. Good job, guys. You killed it. Oh, and the other one I'm looking forward to is called Bitchcraft, which is um
Okay.
very queer, very gay, and I love it. And it's like it's about these three witches who live in New York City. And it was written by a great writer. Their name is Erin Reese. And it's drawn by Lemma Carroll. Both of them are brand new to comics. Uh Aaron is no longer with us, but the book, it's magnificent. And they wrote it before they passed on, but and we
Oh,
continued
wow.
to produce it, and it's really a beautiful story. Um, and it's beautifully drawn and has great covers by A.L. Kaplan, who's just kind of everywhere. He's brilliant. And we have some great variants. So it's very exciting. We have a Pride variant by Joshua Swaby, and
Oh, fantastic.
who's just like crazy
Phenomenal.
and such a
Yeah.
good artist. And then a B variant by Luciano Vecchio. I'm
Okay.
probably totally massacring that name, so sorry. But it's a great book. So I and yeah. So like I think those are kind of the like I agree with you, Red Vector. I'm like, oh yeah, that was just announced too. Like we have so many great books there. I'm trying to like make sure I'm not spoiling books that are not been announced yet. Because that's how my brain works. I'm like, wait, which ones have we talked about? Which ones have we announced? So yeah, there's a lot of great books coming down the pike. I'm really excited about.
Awesome.
Books that I'm working on and books that I'm not working on. So there's a lot of very cool stuff. Very cool. I know Speed Racer though. I'm whatever. Anyway, just like totally excited about Speed Racer. So yeah.
Yes. Yeah, very excited about Speed Racer. Very excited about Endless Night.
Yes.
I love all the series that make up that.
Yeah.
Spectrum's been great. I'm just going through the Mad Cave like website
Just go to the
now. Like I'm
website.
just
Just
scrolling through. I'm
scroll.
just like, uh, Spectrum's been great.
Ah,
That's been wonderful.
yeah, I think the last issue just came out. Was it yesterday? I can't. I have
Yeah.
no brain capacity left. But yeah, no, those guys, Dave and Rick are. I mean, obviously Dave's work is unbelievable. His artwork is incredible, but that team up was really great.
Yeah.
And Rick had never written a comic book before, and it's a wild thing.
It's very, very good. But Dark Empty Void I've read, and I really love that. I haven't read Far Down Below yet, and I feel bad because it sounds like it's very much my thing. So I'm looking forward to probably this weekend digging into the first issue of
Awesome.
Far Down Below. So
The
yeah,
story,
there's
the
great stuff.
art in that book is unbelievable. Far Down Below is so good. It's very like Stephen Kingy. It's very cool. It's very good. So yeah, I think you'll dig it. I think you'll like it.
Yeah, I can't wait. And uh my brother Bobby, a shout out to Bobby. He's the Cryptid Creator Corner's #1 most dedicated fan. Bobby listens to all my episodes. And I said during the Slasher's Apprentice episode when I was talking to Justin and Val that I was going to put it on the
There's
pull list
another
for
one,
Bobby.
the Slasher's Apprentice.
Yes,
Oh my
and
god, yes, Justin and Val just absolutely,
yeah,
literally killing it in that book.
yeah.
It's so good, and it's so I mean, it's unbelievable. We just finished the last issue, like, today. I have, like, 2 sound effects to put into 1 page. Anyway, so, like, that's so funny. And I mean, I love them, and they absolutely did an amazing job. The storytelling, the art, I mean, the journey that these characters go on, it's wild. And somehow you're like rooting for killers. It's cool. It's great.
Yeah. 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 I mean, it's I really like that first issue, but I feel bad because Bobby just got done listening to it because he's always like a little behind, and he was like, "Did you said in the episode you're gonna put it on the list for me?" And I was like, "I think I forgot." So I added it now.
Okay,
So
okay.
he's going to get issues 2 through whatever it is, 5 or 6. So as soon as I still have to track down an issue number 1 of Slash's Apprentice for Bobby. I promised him I'd do it. So, but yeah, so many great Mad Cave books out. But all right, James, we're both, I think, on the verge of unconsciousness.
It was just
I've
an hour
kept
just
you way too
wild out.
long.
Oh,
I kept you way too long. I apologize, but
no
I
worries.
think this has been a wonderful conversation about comics, about editing, about Mad Cave, about you, and I appreciate it, and I know the listeners do
Thank you.
appreciate it so much um, that
I hope
you
I mean,
were willing to come on.
I had a great time, and I really appreciate you inviting me on. This is awesome. Yeah, I'm really pumped. I love comics. I'll try to fall asleep tonight. We'll find out. I mean, at least tomorrow is Friday. You know, it's
Yep,
life.
yep.
Here we are. We've made it.
It's my Penny's birthday. Penny is going to be 8 tomorrow,
Oh my
so
god! Happy
yep,
birthday!
we're gonna.
You gotta go to sleep.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she's very good about it. She just, we read, and I got to sing her. You Are My Sunshine, and then she goes to bed. So
that's so
yeah,
sweet. I love that.
yeah.
Good girl.
She's great. So she's 8 tomorrow. We're gonna go to Del Pez and have, guacamole and margaritas. So
I hope she's not having a margarita.
no, she has to drive. Um,
That's right. Teach him
yeah.
young.
You
Yeah.
have to. You have to. All right, listeners, thank you so much. And thank you to my guest, James B. Emmett. I really appreciate him coming on, and I kept him way too late. So I hope you appreciate it because I did it for you. And go buy some Mad Cave books. I talk about them
Ooh,
enough, and I do it because they're great. And then find me. We'll talk about them. We'll start our own little Blue Sky Mad Cave book club, maybe. I don't know.
yes, I'm
I'd
down.
host it.
Yeah.
Um,
There you go.
all right. So rate and review us, do all the things they tell you to do about podcasts. Let me know what it is you're reading. I'd love to talk more about comics. And yeah, thank you so much for listening. Thank you again to James. And I will see you next time. Good night.
Thank you.